Good evening, and welcome. Tonight we peel back the layers of Hollywood gloss to uncover a truth far more disturbing than fiction. Many of you have likely sat on the edge of your seats, hearts pounding, watching the blockbuster horror film, The Conjuring. It's a movie that masterfully taps into our deepest fears of the unknown, of what might lurk in the shadows of our own homes. But what if I told you that the terror wasn't just a screenwriter's invention? Did you know the terrifying horror film The Conjuring is based on a true story? For many, it's a pinnacle of modern horror cinema. But the chilling events that inspired it are far more than just Hollywood fiction. Tonight, we're not just revisiting a movie. We're stepping into the actual nightmare endured by the Perron family. Join me as we delve into the chilling real-life hauntings that inspired The Conjuring. Explore the Perron family's harrowing ordeal in their Rhode Island farmhouse, and uncover the truth behind Ed and Lorraine Warren's most famous investigation. Prepare to be terrified, because the real-life story behind The Conjuring is arguably even more disturbing than what you saw on screen. We'll explore the relentless paranormal activity, the historical darkness that plagued their home, and the desperate measures taken to find peace. What really happened in that isolated farmhouse? Let's find out. Our story begins not with a sudden demonic possession, but with a dream. The dream of a peaceful country life for Roger and Carolyn Perron and their 5 young daughters, Andrea, Nancy, Christine, Cindy, and April. In the winter of 1971, they found what they believed to be their idyllic escape, a sprawling 14-room farmhouse in the quiet, rural town of Harrisville, Rhode Island. Known locally as the Old Arnold Estate, it sat on 200 acres of land, promising space and tranquility. But from the moment they moved in, an undercurrent of unease permeated the rustic charm. The previous owner, when handing over the keys, offered a cryptic piece of advice, a warning that would soon prove chillingly prescient. Leave the lights on at night. The house itself seemed to hold its breath, steeped in a history far darker than the Perrons could have imagined. Generations of families had lived and died within its walls, many under tragic and mysterious circumstances. Local lore whispered of suicides, drownings in the nearby creek, murders, and even accusations of witchcraft dating back centuries. One name in particular would come to haunt the Perrons: Bathsheba Sherman. Born in 1812, Bathsheba Thayer married Judson Sherman and lived on the property. Whispers and local legend painted her as a Satanist, accused of sacrificing an infant with a large sewing needle and cursing anyone who dared to live on her land. Though historical records are murky, the shadow of Bathsheba, whether real or folkloric, loomed large over the Arnold estate. The land itself was said to have been witness to multiple untimely deaths long before the Perrons arrived. They had unknowingly moved into a place saturated with sorrow, and perhaps, of all the people and greatness, something far more malevolent. Initially, the disturbances were subtle, easily dismissed as the quirks of an old house. Strange noises were common, faint whispers that seemed to ride the drafts, unexplained knocking, the scraping sound of furniture being moved in empty rooms. Doors would creak open or slam shut on their own, even when there was no breeze. Objects would disappear, only to reappear in odd places days later. A pervasive, sickly sweet, yet rotten smell would occasionally fill the air, then vanish without a trace. The daughters often spoke of seeing figures, some benign, like an old woman in a gray dress, who would tuck them into bed, or a young boy they'd see playing. But the seemingly benign soon gave way to the overtly terrifying. The activity escalated, becoming more frequent, more aggressive, and increasingly focused on Carolyn and the children. Beds would begin to shake violently in the middle of the night, sometimes lifting off the floor. The girls reported being slapped, pinched, and having their hair pulled by unseen hands. Cindy, one of the middle daughters, often complained of entities whispering her name, trying to lure her. Christine spoke of an entity that would repeatedly tell her there were 7 dead soldiers buried in the walls. One of the most consistent and terrifying phenomena was the presence the family identified as Bathsheba. Carolyn, in particular, seemed to be a primary target. She would often wake with mysterious bruises and puncture marks on her skin. She reported feeling a cold, menacing presence, sometimes accompanied by the stench of decay and the sensation of being pricked with needles. Andrea Perron, the eldest daughter, later documented these events in her book series, House of Darkness, House of Light. She recounts countless chilling experiences, from her mother levitating during one terrifying episode to the constant psychological torment the entire family endured. They were living in a state of perpetual fear, trapped in a home that seemed actively hostile towards them. The dream of a peaceful country life had curdled into an unrelenting nightmare. By 1973, after nearly 3 years of escalating terror, the Perron family was at their breaking point. Desperate for help, they reached out to a couple whose names were already becoming synonymous with paranormal investigation: Ed and Lorraine Warren. Ed Warren was a self-taught demonologist, the only one recognized by the Catholic Church at the time who wasn't a priest. Lorraine was a gifted clairvoyant and medium, claiming to be able to perceive spirits and demonic presences. Together, they had investigated thousands of alleged hauntings. Upon their arrival at the Arnold estate, Lorraine was immediately struck by the oppressive atmosphere. She later described feeling a profound sense of evil, identifying multiple entities within the home. While many spirits seemed to be residual, trapped by the land's tragic history, she singled out one as particularly dominant and malevolent: the spirit the Perrons had come to know as Bathsheba. Lorraine claimed this entity despised Carolyn, seeing her as a rival for control of the household. Ed, meanwhile, focused on documenting the physical manifestations, setting up equipment, and interviewing the family extensively. The Warrens concluded that the house was indeed infested, not just by human spirits, but by something inhuman, demonic, that fed off the negative energy and the family's fear. They believed Bathsheba Sherman's spirit had become a conduit for this darker force. The Warrens attempted various methods to cleanse the house, including religious blessings and provocations. However, their most significant intervention, and arguably the most traumatic for the Perron family, was a séance conducted in the dead of night. The goal was to contact and perhaps expel the dominant entity tormenting Carolyn. But according to Andrea Perron's accounts, the séance went catastrophically wrong. Instead of bringing peace, it seemed to unleash an even greater fury. This harrowing true story of the Perron family and the Warrens' investigation served as the direct inspiration for James Wan's 2013 horror masterpiece, The Conjuring. The film brought this terrifying case to a global audience. But as with many based on a true story films, creative liberties were taken. The movie heavily focuses on Bathsheba Sherman as the singular demonic antagonist, culminating in a dramatic, Hollywood-style exorcism performed by Ed Warren to save Carolyn. In reality, the Perrons reported experiencing multiple spirits, and Ed Warren, not being an ordained priest, could not perform an official exorcism. The climactic event in the film is a dramatization of the much more chaotic and, for the family, far more damaging séance. However, the film did capture the essence of the family's terror and some specific incidents quite accurately. The hide and clap game that turned sinister, the attacks on the children, the oppressive atmosphere of the house, and the Warrens' genuine efforts to help. These elements have roots in the Perrons' actual experiences. Andrea Perron herself has stated that while the movie isn't a documentary, it does convey the emotional truth of what they endured. The film also accurately portrays the Warrens as compassionate investigators, dedicated to helping families in spiritual crisis. But the true story, particularly the details of the séance and its aftermath, is arguably more complex and psychologically disturbing than the cinematic version. The Perron family finally managed to sell the Arnold estate and move out in 1980, after nearly a decade of torment. But the experiences they endured within those walls left an indelible mark on each of them. Andrea Perron has dedicated much of her life to telling her family's story, ensuring their truth is heard beyond the fictionalized accounts. The house itself, now privately owned, remains a subject of intense fascination and paranormal curiosity. Subsequent owners have also reported strange occurrences, suggesting that whatever energies reside there are deeply ingrained in the property. The legacy of the Perron family haunting is a powerful one. It underscores the profound psychological impact such experiences can have, and serves as a chilling testament for those who believe in the paranormal. It also highlights the importance of approaching such stories with sensitivity, remembering that behind the terrifying tales are real people who suffered real trauma. The story continues to captivate audiences worldwide, fueling ongoing discussions about the nature of good and evil, the existence of spirits, and the mysteries that lie just beyond our understanding. For those brave enough to delve deeper, Andrea Perron's books offer a far more detailed and personal account of their terrifying decade. The peak of the terror, according to Andrea Perron, wasn't a Hollywood-style exorcism, but that terrifying séance conducted by the Warrens. Imagine the scene. The family, already pushed to their limits by years of relentless paranormal assault, gathered in the heart of their haunted home. Lorraine Warren, her psychic senses on high alert, attempting to make contact, to understand, perhaps even to pacify the malevolent forces tormenting Carolyn. Ed Warren stood by, ready to document and intervene. But instead of bringing peace or understanding, the séance seemed to rip open a doorway to something truly horrific. All hell, as they say, broke loose. Carolyn Perron reportedly became the epicenter of a violent spiritual assault. Witnesses described her body contorting in unnatural ways, her voice changing, speaking in tongues and uttering vile obscenities. She allegedly levitated from her chair, thrashing with a strength that wasn't her own. The room filled with an unholy energy, a palpable coldness, and the stench of something ancient and evil. Ed Warren and his assistants struggled to control the situation, to restrain Carolyn, but the entity or entities were overwhelmingly powerful, lashing out with terrifying fury. Roger Perron, witnessing his wife's agonizing torment, her sanity seemingly slipping away before his very eyes, made a desperate, panicked choice. Overwhelmed by fear and a protective rage, he physically threw the Warrens out of the house, screaming at them to leave his wife alone. He believed their intervention, their poking at the hornet's nest, was making things catastrophically worse. This wasn't a cleansing, it was a violation, an event that left Carolyn physically and emotionally scarred for life, and it fractured the family's already fragile hope. This was the true, terrifying climax of their ordeal at the Arnold estate. A moment of raw, uncontrolled, paranormal fury that the movie could only attempt to capture. A night that burned itself into the memory of everyone present. The Perron family eventually moved out of that farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island, in 1980, carrying with them the unseen scars of nearly a decade of inexplicable terror. But the memories, the chilling encounters, and the entities of the old Arnold estate arguably never truly left them. Their story, brought to global attention by The Conjuring, serves as a stark and chilling reminder that some places seem to hold on to their darkness, to absorb the pain and tragedy of the past, and that some experiences defy easy, rational explanation. Whether you believe in the paranormal, in ghosts and demons, or whether you seek more conventional explanations for such phenomena, the profound terror experienced by the Perron family is undeniable. What truly lurked within those walls? Was it the vengeful spirit of Bathsheba Sherman, cursed to roam her former property? Was it a confluence of trapped, residual spirits from generations of tragedy? Or was it something even more ancient? Something inhuman and sinister, drawn to the house's dark history? The questions linger, as does the eerie, unsettling legacy of the real Conjuring house. What would you have done if you were in their shoes? Would you have fled at the first sign of trouble? Or would you have fought for your home, your family, your sanity? If this true story sent shivers down your spine, and you appreciate these explorations into the unknown, please show your support by giving this video a like. Share it with fellow horror enthusiasts and anyone intrigued by real-life mysteries. And most importantly, subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into real hauntings, urban legends, and terrifying tales from around the world. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss a spine-chilling episode. What are your thoughts on the Perron family haunting? Do you believe the movie did justice to their incredibly traumatic story? What aspect of this case do you find the most terrifying? Let me know in the comments section below. I read as many as I can. Thank you for joining me tonight. Stay safe, be aware of the shadows, and perhaps it might be a good idea to leave a light on tonight.